It happens so often. The day just gets away from us. At the end of the day, we feel both like the day was so long and also like, where did it go? I didn't do hardly any of what was on my list. Why am I so tired and exhausted when there's so much that I didn't do today? Can you relate? You are not alone. It's totally normal. We all feel that way sometimes. So let's talk about how to change that internal conversation by changing how we spend our time and also how we think about our time. There's never enough time in the day, I know. But actually there is. There's enough time to do what we ought, what we need. There's just not enough time to do all the things. So time management is really about knowing what's important, knowing what we ought to do, and then using our time, our energy, our attention to do those things. We all feel like there's too much to do, but with the right perspective and realistic expectations, we can use our current situation for growth instead of discouragement, because we know that this current situation and ourselves are not stagnant or permanent. All June, we are going to be talking about productivity for moms. So be sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss a single episode. You know, there really is no such thing as time management. There's really only self-management. You don't use your time better and end up with more of it. Although sometimes it definitely feels that way. Or at least sometimes it feels like there's a lot less of it because of how we spent the time. It's true, but really that's all about decisions, about how we use it. Decisions for ourselves and not really the time. The time is not external from us in that it's something we can control, manipulate, change, or do anything with. The material that we're really working with when we are talking about time management is ourselves. We are practicing self-control and self-management. We're practicing making better choices, better decisions when we are talking about time management. Nothing you do will actually make more time, but there's a lot we can do to use the time we have well, to steward that time and make the most of it. And that's a skill worth building. You know, another time management principle that moms need to realize, especially if we are going to the business world for our time management advice, is that unlike an executive in an office with a door to close and a secretary to delegate to, a lot of our time is not actually our own to dispose with how we want. And if we try to use time management strategies or tips or techniques that assume that we have control over our time, that we have control over all the things that we need to do, then we're going to wind up frustrated. And it's not really because we're doing anything wrong. It's because we're coming at our life from the wrong perspective with the wrong expectations. So as a mom, and this is true really of any caregiver sort of position, which moms definitely are caregivers primarily, that means that our duties, our responsibilities, how we use our time is dictated by the needs of those around us, which are in the moment. A lot of them are not plannable. So we can't pencil in mothering from 1 to 2 p.m. and have office hours as moms. That's just not feasible. It's not even desirable, really. That's not the way we want to be as moms. But that doesn't mean that we throw the entire concept of time management out the window, as if that means we can just be perfectly spontaneous and haphazard, flying by the seat of our pants all the time. That's also not a great strategy, because there is a lot of discretionary time within a life at home. It's just that we can't schedule it in and pencil it in or count on it necessarily, but yet it's there if we use it well. And there's a lot of time that we can potentially use poorly. But time is a resource, time is a gift that we need to invest and use well. So let's talk about 3 techniques that we can use to manage ourselves and how we use the time available to us as moms at home. So there are 3 things that you can do, that I can do, to manage our life at home better. The first one is to make a daily top 3 to-do list. Now, I have a lot of episodes on this, so you can scroll back and find those after this episode. But when we identify what our top priorities for the day are, that brings it to our attention and our awareness, and we are much more likely to then accomplish those. It's also just a great thought exercise to identify what the top priorities are, because often when we make a to-do list, that list is really the extras, the things we would like to do if things were going 100% our way. But the reality is that life is not going to go our way. And so if we expect it to, or we wait for it to, we're never going to get anywhere. Instead, your top 3 things on your daily card should identify the actual priorities in your situation right now. Sometimes that might be a meaningful step forward on a project. Sometimes that's going to be, I need to catch up on the laundry. That really is the most important thing for me to accomplish today. Sometimes it's going to be feeding people. Sometimes it's going to be sitting with this child because they have needs. They need their mom, and that's who I am, and that's what I'm going to be in this situation. What goes on our daily to-do list does not need to be a measurable, completable project. It needs to help us keep our head in the game, stay engaged with where we are actually needed in our homes and families. Another great thing to add to your daily to-do list is a motto or a quote or a verse that helps you remember the truth that you need to keep in front of your eyes, in front of your mind, so that you approach life, kids, meals, duties with the right attitude. Sometimes our daily to-do list doesn't need to-dos so much as think on these things, renew your mind, think this way about what's on your plate today. And that is perfectly legitimate. That is a way to manage ourselves and manage our minds around the time that we have and how we should be spending that time. Plus, making that card fresh every day allows us to have the flexibility that we really need as moms. Sometimes we don't know a week in advance what needs we are serving, where our actual priorities are in a day. So if we just keep that open, assess our current situation, and make that list fresh, there are a lot of benefits, but one of them is certainly flexibility. So the other thing that you can do to help manage yourself and how you think about and use your time well is what we call in Simply Convivial Continuing Education, the evening examen. It's a weird word. It means the same thing as examine, really, except it's actually a medieval practice where you go back intentionally and deliberately over the previous day and think about it, write a little bit about it, pray about it, and then you're able to move forward with an informed, deliberate, intentional sense of your mission, your needs, what's really important, what are those priorities now, instead of just crashing at the end of the day, which is often super tempting. We can take just 5 minutes and think about the day. And often when we do and we start writing out what happened in the day, we realize that we have a lot of negative spin happening in the interpretation of our lives. And that's really just a complaining, grumbling spirit that so easily sets in when we spend our time and we spend our thoughts identifying what did not go our way, what happened that we did not like, what did not happen that we wanted to happen. When we focus on those things, we are telling ourselves a story about our lives that is not true. It's complaining. Even if it does not come out of our mouths, it is still a complaining spirit. So to take a few moments at the end of the day and write out what did happen, to think about how that affects your day tomorrow, to maybe repent instead of complain, to express gratitude for all the things that did happen, even though they weren't on your plan. This is 5 minutes well spent. It's a time that really fosters growth in our attitudes and in our ability to be flexible and to process what's happening and to make better decisions moving forward. So, an evening examine. You can also call it an evening review or just a 5-minute reset at the end of the day. It is so helpful. And when you do this every evening, you will find that the third practice that helps us manage ourselves and how we use our time becomes so much easier and streamlined. And that is the weekly review. Now, the weekly review is the key, the linchpin to actually knowing what's on your plate and knowing that you are spending your time where it matters most. The weekly review doesn't have to take a long time. About half an hour is all that's needed if you have what you need, a calendar and some kind of list that you keep in front of your face. We call it a weekly dashboard in Simply Convivial, but that really just means a weekly spread. It could be your planner. It can be a blank sheet that just has notes. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be something that holds information you need to see for the week. That alongside your calendar, and you can look at the previous week and assess how things went, what changes you might need to make moving forward. Just baby step changes, not complete life overhauls. And then you look at the coming week and you glance at the coming month and you see what's coming up. What do you need to do to be prepared for what's actually on your calendar? Is everything on your calendar? And if it's not, just put it there. This is the time to make sure that your calendar is up to date, that you're aware of the things that are on it, and that you're going to be prepared to meet those obligations on time. And you make notes for yourself on your weekly dashboard so that those responsibilities, those needs are visible to you moving forward. So your weekly review is the time where you get current on your calendar, but also in your mind. And you see what's actually on your plate instead of letting all those thoughts and feelings of vague obligations swirl in your mind. You've thought about it, you've written some things down, and you're able to move forward with more clarity and with more intention. When you put these 3 practices into place, and they really don't take that much time, a daily card should take you less than 5 minutes to write every day. The evening examine is also 5 minutes, maybe 10, every evening. And the weekly review, about half an hour once a week, on Friday or Saturday, maybe Sunday. Sometimes it's Monday morning, quite honestly, for me. But still, it doesn't have to take that long. And the benefits that we reap from these very deliberate, intentional, concentrated planning times is immense. These are not planning times that are full of wishful thinking. These are planning times that are built into our day and our week that help us realistically assess the time we actually have and what needs to fit into that time so that we can make better choices in the moment. And that's really at the heart of what time management is about. Time management is not about doing the right tweaks so that everything that we want fits into our day. If that's what we're going for, we are always going to be hunting for the secret sauce, the magic secret that will make our personal pet plans happen. When really we just need to see the needs in front of us that are our responsibility to meet. We need to see our duties and see that our time is taken up with these, and that's okay. Those are our priorities. Those are our choices. And then we can keep our head in the game, do our work with a cheerful goodwill, and grow through it. So we're talking less than 2 hours over the week. A week is 168 hours. Out of all of those hours, we are talking about spending 2 getting clear and intentional with our time and our responsibilities, giving up the wishful thinking, giving up the total life overhauls and trying to make life go our way, and instead rather looking at what we are actually responsible for doing and making those our priorities and cheerfully choosing them. That's the kind of time management that we need as moms at home. And these 3 key practices for being aware of our time and aware of the choices we ought to be making are really all we need to grow in stewarding our time and our attention and even our attitudes well. You can click the link in the description to find the companion article on Simply Convivial with more about these 3 tips and some downloadable resources that will help you implement these. Or you can just go to simplyconvivial.com and search in the bar for time management for moms. Are you always busy yet feeling like you're never getting done what needs to get done? Do you feel pulled in a million directions at once? I've got the help that you need, and it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a simple way to figure out what will work for you, and the key to it all lies in knowing your vocations. Go to simplyconvivial.com, the link in the description, and get the free vocation guide. It's the first step towards sane planning, realistic planning, and calm productivity for moms at home. And it's free. That link's below. Until next time, repent, rejoice, repeat.